Are you looking to build a house? It can be super overwhelming. It can be one of the best things you ever do in your life, and maybe even both at the same time in a lot of ways. So I wanted to bring Chuck Petersheim here today from Catskill Farms, built over 300 homes, who's going to be talking about their process, answering all kinds of questions about building. And there is a special offer for Upstate Curious folks that we can talk about. I am Megan Brenn-White, an associate real estate broker and the head of the Upstate Curious team of Keller Williams Realty, Hudson Valley North. And we work with residential property, with commercial property, with land, with developers. We kind of do it all. We work across 8 counties, so it's a pretty broad spectrum of folks. And we are the biggest team in the Hudson Valley and Catskills. So that is moi. And I have never personally done a lot of renovation work. I've only built one building, which was an outbuilding here. And I can say from my experience that building from the ground up rather than renovating was so much less painful. It's just like I love both, and I would always be happy not to find some hideous thing behind walls anymore in my life. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Chuck here and spotlight.
Okay.
And Chuck, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. And I know it can be intimidating to be talking to a famous person, but don't be intimidated. Feel free to shoot any questions out you want. We're here to talk briefly about what Catskill Farms does, but really what we do, I've been building homes in the Hudson Valley since 2001, where we started in Sullivan County after I left New York City after 9/11. And since that time, we've put about 300 of them up across 3 counties and really in every little hamlet you can name. So we have an in-depth expertise in building departments, assessments, building processes, which towns are easy, which ones are hard, highway permit, just the nitty gritty. And also how to make it easy, how to take the hard path, how to take the easy path, and everywhere in between. So I'm going to briefly talk about what I was talking to Megan about, but I think a lot of this can be done with questions that I can answer quickly and kind of just run right through them, and then we can follow up in any way we can. What we found during 2020, so I've been buying land in the Catskills for 20 years, and really my experience was if I wasn't buying it, nobody was, or very few people was. I'd look at a piece in 2007. If I didn't want it till 2010, it would still be there. And that was true in Sullivan County and Ulster County, and even some in Rhinebeck and Dutchess County. That is no longer the case. As of 18 months ago, if I had to file like some sort of SEC footnote about risk to my business, it would be the lack of land, because people who could not find homes thought it was a good idea, and we'll talk about that later, to buy land. So what that did was, and many of them never did anything with that land because they found the building process to be tougher, arduous, and complicated, especially when the pipeline is so full like it is right now. So it can really be a tough row to hoe. Even in best cases scenarios, building a home can be tough, but in this environment right now, it's quite daunting. So what happened when people start buying land is what used to be 60, 70 grand is now 200, 250, 280. That's not the homes we build. So we stopped in Ulster County. What we did was pivot a little bit and started to try to have conversations with people that had land that now needed a solution for that land. And our easiest solution is people who like our homes and have a piece of land. We can do the same thing we've been doing for 20 years, which is shepherding the process through from site planning, engineering, surveying, banking, design, using one of our 50 or 60 original designs and putting it on your land. And you can be building in 2 or 3 months in that way. And we've had a lot of success having those conversations, and it's been fun because we have a lot of fans, and a lot of people have been following our designs for a long time. So the idea that we could take their land, put a home of ours on their land is a little bit what this conversation is about. I think Megan possibly pointed out in her email that we had 1 or 2 or 3 slots left this year, but going forward, we're definitely diversifying and doing this a little bit more than we used to. For 20 years, our business model was we bought the land, maybe we had a homeowner pre-arranged, maybe we didn't. We built one of our designs. We would collaborate with an owner, but we would really own the property, own the land, pay for the improvements, and sell a finished product to the eventual homeowner who we met somewhere along the way. Sometimes at the very beginning, sometimes in the middle, typically not later than that. This is different because if you own the land, we can no longer pay for your improvements. You have to pay us as we go along. So it's more of a traditional process. But what we do as builders is much more comprehensive than your typical builder. Anything from electrical engineering to building permits to interacting with the highway department, solving 100 issues that would typically be pushed off to the homeowner. Because of our business model for 20 years, we just naturally take care of them. Could be cable company, could be the phone company, could be electric company, just a million little details that can drive you crazy, especially if you have no idea where to start and you're learning about it late that you need to do something about it. So that's my beginning, and we can go anywhere from there, Megan.
Great. Thank you so much. That's super helpful. I already have 1,000 questions, so I'm going to be watching the chat here, but I guess one thing, I mean, this is not necessarily your area of expertise, but one thing is if you could talk about, I know a lot of people ask us about financing, and, we've had mortgage folks come on and talk about construction financing, but what is the difference of them buying a home that they see as Catskill Farms? Like you said, you own the land, you own the home, versus getting a construction loan. And also as a side note, or as a secondary topic, people say that construction loans are hideous. They're super detailed. They're like overly cumbersome. Discuss.
Well, to your point, it couldn't be more different. Our business model and why it has enabled us to build 300 homes when maybe our nearest competitor has built 12 in the last 20 years, or maybe 20, is because the business model of paying for someone else's home is a good business model. It entails a lot of risk, but it eliminates the hideous nature of the construction loan process. So someone we meet for an hour or a weekend will give us $100,000 and we'll build them a $500,000 home. That's a very easy way to build. And it's uncommon because there's so much risk involved on our end. We just happen to be intuitive enough and good enough with client relations that we're able to succeed with that process. And it's not easy to succeed when you're building, designing, collaborating, and then expecting all the money in the end, as opposed to as you go along. Now, construction loan financing does not have to be hideous. What makes it hideous is typically, with us, it does not need to be, because we understand the nature of the construction. So if someone's building our homes, we already have 9/10 of the information the bank's going to need. They're going to want an estimate. They're going to want a schedule. They're going to want a contract. They're going to want a survey. They're going to want a foundation survey. They're going to want all these things we already know about. They're going to have their construction loan schedule, which may not match up with the builder's disbursement schedule. So those things need to marry. The problem with construction loans is that typically people are going through them for the first time and they don't have a builder as a partner early on, or their builder isn't a good enough partner to understand all the pitfalls of the construction loan. If you have a strong finance savvy construction company, like I'm more of an academic end of it. Like I'm not a carpenter. I had the idea and I did the marketing and I've grown the business, but I'm not a carpenter. So the banking end of it, I understand very well. And so if you partner with the builder early on and understand the things, and you should really use a local bank. I've ever seen construction loans come through Ulster Bank. I'm not sure if other banks do them. But even the most streamlined process is still a pain in the ass on a construction loan, but it is wholly doable with the cooperation of a building company that has good administrative talents, because a lot of it is administrative and a lot of it's forecasting. Oh, well, the bank's going to give us a draw at this point. Let's let them know we're going to get to that point in a week. So, the builder staying on schedule and being able to let the bank know, and the bank pre-scheduling it. And the bank may need a title survey or a title update. They may need a survey for something. Like, just understanding all those requests, not late but early, can really prevent a lot of delay. Because if you're delaying paying your builder because the bank's not paying you, then obviously it's becoming a problem almost immediately.
I think that one of the positives about construction loans, I think, is that you have to decide so much up front, that you're really and this particularly, I think, is the advantage also if you have your designs and I'm sure you have material lists that people can choose from. They can probably look at some of your homes and see different things, but it's getting those specifics down on paper that I've done some projects with people for renovations with construction loans also that have been great. We've had clients who've done that, and that part of it, that front end part is kind of annoying to be like, what tile do you want? How many square feet of tile are you going to need here? And when is it going to be done? And how are we going to do each of the phases?
And our business model at the core doesn't do that. We like people to be in their home when they're making those decisions. So like the Catskill Farms model, and also what we carry forward with when we're building on other people's land, our designs, is the ability to have a site meeting after the walls are up and the windows are in, and talk about where your lights are going and what tile you're going to. And so the 100 decisions you're talking about making, so we've kind of turned the building process on its head. And because my team is talented enough to sort of react to the change, to a fluid, organic process where we have a walkthrough on a Saturday and we have to make adjustments on Monday without charging people $50,000, has really enabled us to be creative within the constraints of construction. So for our process, and I can't speak to other people's process, but our process, when we're building one of our homes, either on our land or someone else's land, and we've been developing new designs for 20 years, and a lot of our best designs have been designs we've come up with and then gone through multiple iterations with our customers who always are talented, have a great design sense. So here we have a house that's this, but they're like, what, can't we do this and this and this? And sometimes the answer is, no, you definitely can't do that. You need a staircase and, it has to be this wide. But some of them have reinvented some plans that have made the house dramatically better that we're still literally profiting from today. So we go through a process knowing that the house is best designed as it's being built. And that's the truth, but hard to actually do for what you're saying for finance reasons, or also just from a timing standpoint. There's if you do that, you can give your builder a lot of leeway for delays.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, and I know that you can, if you say we're going to have tile that's not more than $7 a square foot,
Right,
up to halfway in the bathroom, like whether it's Zelig tile or whether it's something else, that doesn't necessarily matter. So there is still, I think, room for flexibility, but it's a different, I think that what you said is really important, that it's a builder with administrative talent, either them or somebody on their team who can be like keeping things moving forward, keeping the clients informed, being in good touch with the bank and making sure that those disbursements do come out at the right time. And like you said, with the town, it's a lot. Like I have to say, like, I give props to people who do what you do and what contractors do, because it's a lot of balls in the air. And I can see why now with the labor issues, the supply chain issues, that you have to juggle almost twice as fast and like anticipate more quickly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
it looks like we got a couple. Well, this is an interesting question. What about buying and knocking down? That's something that comes up for us too. Like, is it better to buy a house and knock it, like, and actually tear it down? Because you would have
many of those opportunities, because those opportunities typically exist where the rebuild price somehow would match market value in some respect. I literally have never seen in the Catskills, unless it's lakefront or waterfront on the Hudson, or where someone just doesn't care that they're underwater $1 million when it's all said and done. Many opportunities because when that works is when land is worth so much, when the land has so much value that the house doesn't matter. Like, 2 acres in the Hamptons is worth whatever house you put on, the land's worth more. That's not true in the Catskills.
And I think, and the cost of demolition and getting rid of a house is not nothing. So, if you could buy, would you agree?
$40,000 to knock down a house and get rid of it, it's $30,000 to $40,000.
If you thanks, I love, okay, this is great. Anytime you can give us numbers, that's awesome. Because I guess there would be an instance where somebody would see a house that they literally can't improve. That's like looking at a waterfall, or like in a, that's surrounded at 1 acre, surrounded by 1 million acres of state land or something specific. Yeah. Maybe they could do it, but I agree. I haven't really heard of that ever.
Yeah.
So,
We've heard about it, just not in our neighborhoods.
not in our neighborhoods, exactly. So here's a question about like, would love to know how much improvements to the land brings up the appraisal value, trying to assess that for the purpose of using the land value as down payment for the construction loan. So
Yeah,
like if the land is engineered or, you know, has a well,
um,
kind of more of a big question.
I mean, as if you, what we see, so the land's not going to increase in value from, I mean, if you bought it in 2000 and before 2019 and then still own it, you've seen appreciation. But the land isn't going to have it's not going to have increased much in the last 12 months or since people started paying whatever, and those are still numbers that are being used, but they're not going up at the same rate that they were. So what we do see is not necessarily that people are seeing appreciation, but they are buying the land with cash and then cashing their part of their construction financing allows them to pull that cash back out. That's their first draw, is the land, the bank after you do all your whole thing with the land and your house and the design and the contracts, your loan's approved and they're ready to make the first disbursement, you sit down to close the loan. At that point, you could probably get your money back for a percentage or more of the land cost. And then
That's actually, yeah, sorry.
No,
I was just say that's a really important point that I don't think a lot of people know, that like let's say you buy land for $120,000 and you're going to build a house for $600,000. That $120,000 investment or whatever the land is appraised at will be your 20% down payment at the end of the loan. So it's like,
right,
you've already done it. You don't need another $120,000. Like
right.
they count that towards your equity in the end value.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's important. So, and I think, Mandy, what I would say is that like, it may not matter that much whether you do improvements with the land before or after, because it's like the money is still just the money. Either it comes out as a loan and it goes to the builder, or you have to pay extra as a down payment if your land was really cheap.
If you took a completely wooded piece of land and drove a driveway in and brought the electric in and had it engineered and really improved it that way, you would get more for it, but I don't think you would get more than it costs you to do that. Those improve until you start putting a house. The truth about the Catskills is, and it's always been true, land's hard to sell, and until you pair it with a piece of land, you're really not getting the full value out of either the house or the land.
What I will say is that we are seeing, because land is in short supply and because houses are in short supply, if there's land that is truly shovel ready, that actually has Board of Health, like even septic approvals, it's cleared, it's ready to go, that is worth way more. Like
the only problem with that is that you're stuck. A lot of people don't know where, they don't know anything about the land. So like for us, I spend so much time on a piece of land before I engineer it, because I want to know I want to make sure I'm putting the house in the best spot, because you can never change that. So if someone and you see this all the time in planning boards, and someone doesn't really know their land, they don't really know where the property lines are, they bring a backhoe in, they do a deep test pit, and that's where they get stuck with the septic. So if someone's doing it really well, yes. If someone's just trying to like make a building, we see septic engineering done poorly more often than well, especially and you can't change it unless you redo it. I mean, you have to reapply and then you get into the sort of real pickles, like, oh, will anybody know if I put it over here instead of over here? And maybe not, but maybe. And if they do, then that's a gigantic issue.
Right. And FYI, another pro tip here, the size of your septic is fully dependent on the number of bedrooms you have in your house, not the number of bathrooms, which I feel like is a common misconception. One person would use the same number, could use 10 bathrooms, but like 12 people with one bathroom are going to put more.
And here's another one. Sullivan County doesn't have a Board of Health. So you don't have to get your septic approved by the Board of Health. So it's just you and the engineer, so that there's a lack of engineers.
Except that I just got busted in Livingston Manor because there is some our neighbor complained about us moving our septic. And then there is some guy who sits, that's part of New York State Department of Health, that's sort of Board of Health, that if somebody talks to him, he's supposed to approve it.
Maybe in a complaint, maybe if you're leaching into his water, that may trigger something else. But in terms of new construction, Sullivan County, it's between the homeowner, the builder, and the engineer. In Ulster County, it has to go to the Board of Health, but they're pretty quick. You can do that in about 12 weeks now. It's long. Dutchess can be half a year.
But just to be clear, this is an important thing. So it's 12 weeks. I mean, you have to have all of those approvals before you, well, you don't have to have all those approvals before you break ground, because theoretically you could
Treat it.
you could just start cutting down trees and digging holes and, right? You don't, I mean, like technically, or would you always wait until you had every single approval all the way done before you really started working on a
The
house?
only thing you could do prior would be your driveway and clearing. You wouldn't want to do anything else. Because you would be in violation of the law.
Okay, good.
And
So
plus, you don't want to dig in the ground and leave it there. I mean, the last thing you want is a big hole in the ground collecting water and frogs.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So pros and cons of building
And
on
the town would be very upset. So like you're trying to create, the one thing about building is creating good relationships. Like you start doing stuff like that and you've
don't wanna
kind
do
of shat on your relationships if you get caught.
Okay, pros and cons of building on a slab. Slab on grade, I guess.
Well, especially in Ulster County, there's a lot of rock, so it can get very expensive very quickly to put basements in. There's one quick reason. We always put basements in because people love them. They're great space. You can a lot of times use them as living space. You have a little bit of a grade. You're going to save money on a slab, but you're going to lose space. That's probably the trade-off. And basement space is super valuable, whether it be for your mechanicals, whether it be for storage, whether it be for living.
I mean, I can say that I think that what you guys do is super smart, which is, well, I mean, some of the houses I've seen is that you always have the full basement. Some of it can clearly be used for like living space, like a full walkout, nice area, laundry, utilities, whatever, all that's easy to get to, storage. But you can also leave that unfinished and like finish it another day. Like if you're running out of money or whatever. I think that is a really smart approach, actually, because
so we see that happen all the time. And so the drivers of finishing a basement, why we put them in is because you can finish them at any time. And a lot of them have direct outdoor access. So you're not even impacting the upstairs, which is amazing. And you're adding a lot of our houses aren't big. They're 1,800 square feet, 2,000. So you're really almost adding 50% to the house. Now, Megan, to your point of cost, a home, to make a home bigger and to capture that extra 1,000 square feet could be anywhere from $250 to $300 a square foot. To build out a basement can be not as low as, but as high, it's 100, it's a third of what building a bigger home can be. And it also keeps a cozy feel to the house. So you don't get these big, you can have a 3,000 square foot house, but you're not embarrassed by how big your house is. They live comfortably and cottagey.
interesting. I didn't think about the impact of having the living space below, but that's an interesting way to put it, that you do have this kind of smaller home feel, but with a whole bunch of extra space. If you want to have a gym or a TV room or
the 1,800 to 2,000 square foot houses, it's typically media, it's kids, it's an extra bedroom. It's sort of like takes all the pressure, because an 1,800 square foot home is plenty big enough, but you are sharing spaces with, the TV, the dining, the living, it's all sharing spaces. So to have another 800 square feet of complete rec room, or office or study or exercise, is nice.
So, okay, we have a question from Laurel. If I already have a survey map but want to change the location of the driveway, do I need to get another survey and hire an engineer?
So is your survey, Laurel?
Laurel, yeah.
Is it a new survey?
Yes.
Oh, great. And who did it? Do you know the name?
Like, we'll see if it's
so the only thing you would have to change is if it's exiting. So if you have not gotten your permit, if you have not applied for your permit from the town, where you're proposing egress from your land to the town road or the county road, if you haven't gotten that yet, you can change it anywhere you want. But before anybody builds, you have to get approval from the highway department to bring your driveway in at a certain place, because they want to see certain site distances, certain culvert pipes and things like that. So, really on.
Oh, Medenbach's a surveyor. So a good one.
Yeah. So, you even your survey, what's proposed on a survey is just proposed showing interested parties that the single family home can be built on that parcel. You can do anything you want then inside that parcel that you want. If you show that the septic can live on the northeast corner and the house can live on the northwest, but you decide to change that, if you can go get another Board of Health approval and put it anywhere you want. But there's really nothing that locks your improvements of a site into stone except the final septic approval, because they want to see that where you did your tests and where you showed that the ground percolated at a certain rate is where you put the septic.
So I'm looking at the question and it says, would I need to get another survey and hire an engineer? So I think the survey is showing you generally the outside boundaries of the property and like some
or improvements, like some surveyors, good surveys will show you like stone walls or maybe an old barn that's on the property, or maybe
sometimes even a big tree or something could be there. But you would definitely have to hire, I think you would have to hire. Would you have to hire an engineer to show where the driveway, if you were going to move the driveway from where it is? It depends, actually. It just depends. Like you would have to just like, you're submitting the plans. So I think getting like the plans to the town once, as Chuck said, once you start that, then you might need to resubmit the plans.
Once you start submitting things, you want that to be pretty locked in. But up until that point, you can
do whatever you want
as many times as you want, as long as that you change your mind in a way that the town's going to approve.
This is interesting. This is what's the limited amount of work I can do in order to get a C of O? Can I do interior design details later, tile, flooring, paint?
So you're going to need a kitchen and a working bathroom, and you're also going to need a house that's similar to the plan you submitted. So if your plan shows a $3 million house and you put one bathroom and a kitchen in, you may or may not get a CO with that. But by law, you have heating, cooling, your electric is up to code and signed off by an electrical inspector. That's critical. That your septic is up to code and signed off by the Board of Health. That's critical. That you have a survey that shows your improvements. That's pretty critical to the town. So a C of O, we submit like a 12-part thing for the C of O, and it starts with electrical certificate, Board of Health certificate, water testing certificate that you have good water. Survey that you actually built on the piece of land you thought you did, 911 address, and a few other ancillary things. That's kind of the paperwork end of it. The physical part of it, a kitchen, heating, and a bathroom. We built 300 square foot houses, and it's a room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. That's all you need. If you have a 5,000 square foot house and have kitchen and a bathroom, as long as it's insulated and it has electric in it. The problem is for a electrical inspector, sorry to go in the weeds here.
Oh, right.
Electric is quite specific. So you may find that, you have to do a lot more electric than you think you have to, because every 6 feet you need an outlet, and every 2 feet close to a door, and switches like that. So that may be a little more complicated. And the town doesn't even have any say in it. That comes from a third party independent inspector.
And flooring, I don't know if they would, I guess you
plywood.
You could just be like, this is my floor.
You'd have to insulate, you have to cover your insulation with something.
So, I don't want to say anything like super illegal, but anyways, I guess I would want to know why you're asking for the CFO, because some people live in their homes during the building process. And so that you could talk to your town about if that's possible or not at a certain point. Obviously not when it's like, when you have a bathroom and a kitchen, you start to be able to actually.
Yeah, but you're not fully insured. You're not properly insured. There's a lot of reasons to get your C of O.
Yeah, it's not like and also you don't want to piss the town off. It's what you said, but that's, I guess I wasn't sure if that was why she was asking, but.
Well, you find a lot of, people, it's expensive, and sometimes you don't find out the expense, so you're halfway through, and then you have to make some hard decisions. And one of them is, how little do I have, I'm not saying this as a value judgment, but how little do I have to do to actually get to the point where I can legally and safely live in this home, and then kind of regroup and create plan B.
So what would you, this is Laurel has some other good questions. Because I know people are going to ask this. What would you estimate? The question is, what would you estimate to be the cost per square foot when building today? So I guess you could talk about your cost per square foot. I could tell, I mean, I can say that I've heard anything from, I mean, I feel like 250 is getting to be almost at the like lower end of the, like it's that because of everything is being expensive up to, I mean, you can go up to $600 a square foot. I mean, you can go infinite number per square foot, but I think that a lot of the luxury sort of home builders are sort of at $400 a square foot for their cost even sometimes. So it's a pretty big range, but what would you say about that for you guys and for in general?
I think you're right on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's, I mean, new construction super, there's a lot of things that go into it. And it really has a lot, and you're seeing more construction, new construction, because people are willing to pay more. If the market would contract, like we've seen many times over the last 20 years, nobody wants to pay $400 or $500 a square foot, and then 250, 275, you can build a very nice house for that. So what you may or may not see here in the next 2 years, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, but you know, right now the environment is, no matter how talented or not talented you are, if you build a house, you can probably find a buyer for it. That was true at least for the last 2 years. We saw that earlier too, like 2005. Not the same situation at all. But as things get more competitive, the first thing to leave the market is that super high end. And so the Catskills has never seen that before at this volume.
yeah, interesting.
And you really are missing, I mean, there's plenty of money to be made at $200 to $400 a square foot for a good builder that's efficient and with their time and money. I think what you're finding is a lot of builders right now haven't done it that often and really actually do need to charge that amount to, and they're paying a lot for land and they're paying a lot for materials, and they don't have great relationships with their subcontractors, and they're just paying top dollar to do these things. So even though they're charging twice what I think they should be, I don't think they're making any more money than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting talking to a lot of the builders, and what I would say is that it's very hard. It is really hard to build, like, I don't even know if it's possible. I mean, it's got to be somewhere possible, but like build a nice 2,000 square foot home and sell it with the land for 350, 300 is like, I don't think that's possible anymore, just because the cost of land has gone up so much, the materials, everything has. So that, you know, this is a whole, I've got my whole book here on the nation's affordability crisis, and this is
we built up until like right before COVID, we were pretty sure the market in the Catskills was going to contract, and we had literally 7 houses under construction for under $325,000. So it could be done, but both the land is not available at the $40,000 I was buying at, and the materials are twice as much. So we made a great living from 2008 to 2018 with a whole portfolio of, we had bigger homes, but a whole portfolio of under 1,400 square foot homes. We were the only ones doing them, because you really have to be good at what you do to make money at that size. But we were able to put them out at 280, 320, 380, something like that.
Yeah, that's not,
we did a lot of them.
That is, yeah, that is, well, here's another question from Laurel, because I'm sure everybody wants to know this. Do you anticipate the price of materials coming down?
Well, they already have, but no. I mean, maybe I'm not a macroeconomic, but maybe that's economist, but maybe that's what if demand would slow down, then prices would come down. But as long as, you know, every trade in the entire country is booked for the next year, we're building, I don't know, I really don't understand the recession talk, because I deal with hundreds of small businesses and they're busy for the next 2 years. I don't, until there's more slack, until we actually do have a slowdown in the economy, not just the media slowdown, media saying it, I don't see the demand catching up with, or the supply catching up with demand to materially impact the cost of materials.
I think that even if, I mean, honestly, like for the country, you know, that we're in such a, we are so far behind in what we need to build as a country. I mean, just so far behind in terms of the household formation and number of homes built, that like, hopefully, I mean, in a weird way, I want to be like, hopefully material costs don't go down, because you want, like, we need those homes being built. The only way is maybe if the government starts to like actually subsidize building materials so that homes can get built. Which again that is super unlikely, but I think also there are things that are changing environmentally that are making things more difficult, and like some, timber things are changing in Canada, and the way, like some of these trade barriers have been put up are just they're not going to go back very easily. So I think I would not be like waiting for material costs like that would, like if that, it's not going to be, I don't think it'll be like, oh, great, we're down to like a third of what they are now in a year.
Well, the problem was in the summer of 2020 through the spring of 2021, there was really only one commodity that was really impacting the cost of construction. That was lumber, soft lumber. But that sort of stabilized at a high price, but then everything else went wild. Like, so for a year, nothing, you could, whether it be plastic or wire or gas or roofing, all of that. So now the entire basket of construction
Is expensive.
Whereas before it was just one item, which was super expensive, but now it's the whole thing, and it can easily add 100 grand to a home.
I think that is actually what like nationally they're saying, is that like the average price of a home building has gone up $100,000 just from the material costs alone. So material, or maybe it might have been material and labor, but either way, it's like that it's significant. It's not like a little nudge. So somebody asked if banks prefer land purchases in cash before getting a construction loan. And I mean, I would say that they can sometimes roll the whole thing. There are some banks that will roll the whole thing in together. Most of the time it is done with land as cash first, but
yeah, it's hard to finance land. And if you do, they'll give you 50%. They'll give you 50%, maybe 60%. They won't give you, your 80% on it, typically, not on just the land once you buy the home. But we see most people buy their land with cash.
I'm trying to remember, there was, and anybody, if you want to write to me, just megan@upstatecurious.com. We have, it's either Round Out Savings or one of the banks I know had said that they would roll it in, which was surprising. So, okay. Rule of thumb for cost per square feet. We talked about that. Knockdown cost. We talked about that. Purchase 2 plots. Does it make sense to put septic on well and both if you're only planning on building on one property to start?
How many acres are they combined in what county or town?
Brian, oh, hey, we're asking you that. How many acres? Oh,
And
somebody just wrote that Wallkill Valley does land loans with 25% down.
Mm.
And Brian has 12 acres of Dutchess.
Okay, and is that 2 6-acre pieces?
Yep. Nice.
Okay, so it wouldn't, or both of them conceivably buildable in the future?
Oh, it's so exciting.
Mhm. So are both pieces conceivably buildable?
Zoom doesn't have the ... So I can't tell if he's. I would assume so. Otherwise, wait here. Both are approved for 4-bedroom homes.
Wow.
They didn't get those septics and wells in.
Board of Health. So what was his question then?
If he like is only going to build a house on one of them, should he just do the septic and the well and stuff now for the other one too? Is there like, I think it's like is there an economy of scale to bringing in a septic crew to doing 2?
Oh, not the approval, the install. No, it's I mean, if he knows he's going to, I don't think the septic, you don't want that sitting around because you won't get approval. But if you wanted to drop another well in when the well driller, that makes sense. Put a driveway in while they're doing driveways, that makes sense. Clearing while they're clearing, that makes sense. But you gotta know what you're doing or else you'll ruin both pieces.
It's also true. And somebody else, if you wanted to sell the other lot, they might want to put the septic or the well in a different place. And then you've kind of like got it stuck.
I mean, one nice thing is we own a lot of adjacent parcels. In fact, anytime I can buy the piece next to me, I do, because then I can, no matter how imperfect or perfect they are to get, I can place the houses and the improvements in the way that has least impact on each other. So if you would ever go split them off and sell it to somebody, I would, you have a lot of leeway when you sell something in the deed to sort of dictate where the next property could be, the next improvement could be.
Somebody's asking how custom you can make the design, I guess, for Catskill Farms.
Pretty custom. So custom is a funny word. We call it personalization more than custom, because a lot of our houses have been customized over the years with our, 300 homes. So it's 600 talented professionals that come through them. Partners, wives, or married people, and so a lot of times the structure itself is kind of figured out, but within that, and that's not even true though, because like we just built the same house. I think it was like it's ranch, whatever, 56, and a woman came in and she had a great idea for how to redo this whole backside of the house, and we weren't far enough, and we did it, and we're going to do it every time from now, because it was a great idea, and we've had that happen 2 or 3 times. So if you get in, or so what we're not going to do is, if you take a look at any of our plans, you'll see roof lines and size of buildings. We're not going to change that. But inside that building, there are definitely always room for iterations. Now, there might be very good reasons why the iteration doesn't make sense. Well, it may make sense in someone who's only looking at it through one lens. In the whole scheme of things, it doesn't make sense. But every once in a while, someone with an idea, can really reinvent the plan or invent the plan. So let's just say, but for the most part, people who build our homes, because we have so many different designs, find one that works for them and works for their land, more importantly, or as importantly, works with their land, which is what we really help with too. Certain houses don't work with certain pieces of land. Some pieces of land can accommodate any style of home, but some can't. So inside the home, the customization is really endless. And we have roadmaps and design roadmaps, whether digital or with our design partners at the tile store, the kitchen store, what kitchen you want to put in, what tile, what floor paint, floor stain paint, chimney stone, doorknobs, doors, siding, tile, plumbing fixtures, lighting fixtures. It's really the mantle in the all of that stuff is collaborative within the ecosystem that we work.
And that makes a very big difference.
We're not going to import a stone mantle from Italy for you. That's not our thing. That's somebody else's thing. But we have 25 great mantles that people have loved from, people from all over the world, that if you can find one there, we'll put it up for you, no problem.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the first, we've sold a handful of resales of Catskill Farms homes. And it's interesting because I would say that there's certainly some common threads in terms of the design and the look, but like they are really different when it's like, that's where I was like, there's not a kitchen necessarily.
No, and that's what really makes us different. There's not 2 choices. Like I'm building homes. I built a couple modulars for rentals down in the Philadelphia area, and you literally have 3 choices, and that's fine. That's all I want. But our homes, as long as we're comfortable with the product that's being proposed, we'll put it in, as long as it fits within the parameters of both the efficiency, as long as our vendors are comfortable with it, as long as the price point makes sense to everybody, we can put it in. And the homes, while you can walk into any of our homes and you have most people can know what they're walking into, right? So when they see them, but that's where the commonality stops. Anything.
Yeah.
I think people really use previous homes as inspiration and where jumping off points for where to do there. So they're constantly evolving in a more mature fashion.
Well, and I guess also, not I guess, for sure, the land and the setting makes a difference. So if you're like on top of a mountain, or if you're surrounded by trees, or if you're surrounded by trees and you decide to cut a ton of them or leave more of them, that makes such a big difference in terms of how the homes feel. Like, I feel like your houses are always pretty bright inside. So seems to be.
And we build in the woods. We've never been the company that's been looking for, AAA view land. We buy 5 acres of wooded land and put a nice house in the right spot, land that everything's complementary. We keep it 300 feet from the road, so you don't have to do your primary. There's just a million things that go into it. But in the end, it's a study of intelligent design and accommodating a lot of different goals, or trying to achieve a lot of different goals. Because if you can ruin a piece of land really quickly, and I've bought plenty of pieces from people who ruined them and could not sell them because of what they did to them, and then we would come in and clean it up or I don't know, change it or something, but
Yeah.
putting a house on a piece of land is a truly a skilled exercise. And it's
Well,
not
this
done
is,
with an engineer, engineer is not gonna have the
Mm,
eye, the interior designer is not gonna have the eye, the realtor may or may not, but most of them do not know land that well. It's a place to be really careful.
I think that's, well, so this actually fits. There's, I'm just mindful of the time and I'm kind of like trying to combine a couple questions because it could probably go on all night. But Brian, with his 12 acres in Dutchess, had also asked something that fits right into this. Do you come to pre-purchase land to evaluate it?
So yes, yeah, absolutely. And then depending on where you are in the process, we have a whole pre-construction package. Like we can take you, let's just say you seem to be somewhat far along, but maybe you're not as far as you think you are, but we'll evaluate your survey, your engineering, where it's supposed to be, your driveway, the land. Yes, absolutely. We
Okay.
won't do it for free forever, but we will have initial consultation and say, these are the 7 things you need to do, which we can help with, which will get you a building permit by X amount of date, plus or minus.
And what I'll do is I'm going to send this video recording out to everybody who registered. I will send Chuck, you can tell me what the best contact information for you is. And then we can also send it in there so that people are like what the best first step is if someone does want to start a conversation about the land. But
every house we've ever built in Dutchess is now selling for more than $1.2 million. We sold them for $500,000 or $600,000. It's a good place to own land. It's a great place to put up a Catskill Farm home.
Dutchess is, yeah, I could 100% see that. He actually had another question, which is interesting. It's different. Do you include garage space and square footage, or is that separate? I would assume it's a different.
Do you what?
Garage space. Do you include garage space and square footage? Actually, do you ever build garages? I don't know.
We're doing it more and more. I mean, we're kind of changing our business model a little bit to monetize, and we have so many customers. We've been so busy for so long, but we're trying to slow down purposely in some ways to, without, losing our vendors or our employees, our ability to pay our benefits that we, use to retain employees. So we're trying to monetize each customer a little bit more. So we're entertaining. We just put in 3 pools. We just built 4 garages.
Oh, pools.
Yeah.
Ooh, tell us how much you're charging, rough price for a pool with like a very simple pavers around it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we would do.
Okay.
But we included in the price of the home. We gave, in retrospect, those homes, they were priced in the spring of 2021, right when the vaccine was coming out. I thought everybody was going back to the city. I think those people who bought our 3 homes in Olive Bridge got very lucky. I think the 4,000 square foot home with a pool went for $990. I think the 2,000 square foot with a pool on, these are great pieces of land and 6 acres, went for $720. Just they're double that, not double that, but they're more than that. There's a couple $100,000 left on the table there.
There's also, by the way, for pool companies, it can be, it's like a 2-year wait list with some of them that we've spoken to. It's
so
bizarre.
You build a pool, I see now exactly what it costs me. You're never going to do you're not going to do the pool and the pavers and the mechanicals and the electric and all that for under 80. It's going to cost someone 60 if they're doing a really good job to do, because there's a lot involved, especially if you're getting involved with the landscaping and the paving and the fencing.
Yeah.
You're going to have 60 or 70 if someone's giving it away where they have a 2-year backup. I mean, I don't know what they're charging, but I can't believe it's less than 110 or 120.
We're seeing a lot of places now charging 200 for a pretty basic pool. It's wild, but because they can, so there's another good, interesting, reason.
So we're starting to pair those up, and we can't do too many because we rely on the same supply chain everybody else does. But we also saw that it was so simple that we could do 60% of it. We could do the excavation, we could do the electric, we could do some of the plumbing, we could order the water, we could do the pavers. So we were able to take 80% of the work and turn it into part of our construction process. And that seemed to work pretty good. We were not putting too much faith in the pool company, showing, we weren't hostage to them entirely.
So this is like, so the question of do you include garage space and square footage, or is it separate? I mean,
you keep saying garage basement. Is it?
I'm sorry. It says, do you include garage space in square footage?
No, that would be completely separate.
Yeah. So garage space,
because our garages would never be
usually.
Our garages are never connected to the home. Like, there's not that type of design. The garage is always a separate building.
Yeah, even if they were, I mean, the appraisers have a certain amount that they will attribute to garage space per square foot of the garage space, but it's for garage space, not like, or actually they just sometimes say 1 or 2 car garage, not even.
And
might
we
be-
find on our homes, the basement space, the ground floor, well lit, gets appraised at 100% of above grade value.
So other interesting point about construction loans is that an appraiser comes in at the beginning, looks at the plans, gives you an appraisal and is like, that's what they base it on. Because if Chuck says, you know what, I want $5 million for this 500 square foot home, the bank's not going to be like, great, I bet it'll be worth $5 million. Let's check it out at the end once we've given you all your money. They do it at the beginning and then they come back at the end and just make sure that everything is like the same standard that you applied. I think that's actually kind of interesting too. You get a sense right from the beginning.
Yeah, well, a lot of our deals don't necessarily hinge on it, but many would, that, you know, the appraisal needs to match the price or come close to the price. Or people can't get it done.
Appraisal is another thing that's getting interesting again a little bit. So, okay. So what do they call it? Rapid fire round. Solar panel companies do you like?
Lightning round.
Lightning round. Thank you. Are there any solar panel companies that you like?
I have solar on my office and my home. I know my home in Milford, Pennsylvania would not cover wherever you're talking about. No, there are not. But I find I've used now 3 different companies because I've had 4 different buildings with solar. I find that they've all been pretty good. So it's not like landscaping companies where I'd be like, well, most of them suck.
Interesting. That's good. So that's good to know. Is it worth it to get triple glazed windows?
No, it's better. It's worth it to insulate your home really well.
Thank
With
you.
foam insulation.
Spray foam insulation, closed cell, open cell, depends on the house.
Oh, so
That you guys cannot, parenthetically, we could have a whole Zoom talk on insulation because you
Yeah.
cannot imagine how expensive it is and how much it will save you and how it impacts the quality of your life in the
Sure.
home. So
yeah, it doesn't matter about it does, but your efficiency of your furnace, not nearly as important. The glazing of your windows, I mean, obviously if they're single glazed, that's no good, but double
Right.
glazed, it's really about what you're putting in your walls, your ceilings, in your basements, and don't pay 6,000, pay your 18,000 for your insulation, and you'll just be comfortable, period.
Effie, I didn't quite understand your question. How difficult is it to, it says sever your land? It might have meant survey. So if you want to write your question again, we can take a look at it.
Survey or split it.
Lightning round is, have you built main homes and accessory units on the same land?
Yes. Mhm. Each town will have different zoning. I think, Megan, you were talking about someone who got in trouble maybe before this call for putting a
Yeah.
kitchen. So every town will have its own little nuance, but having auxiliary buildings and main buildings, and we've done it, we're doing it now, is common.
Okay. Oh, Effie just wrote to split it. So how difficult?
I'll
So
just
do you
split
mean
it.
like to subdivide the land?
It's tough. What town?
And do you want to do more than one?
What town and how much land are we talking about?
Okay, well, Effie gives us, Effie, give us some details and we'll go to
Yeah.
the other lightning round
So
question.
the bottom line, my first question is not easy, expensive, time consuming.
And yes, I would say that's true. Haven't purchased yet, trying to understand the options. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I'm working with someone who has, over 300 acres in Narrowsburg. That's different. They're subdividing it into a million things and they're going to spend, not a million, they're going to subdivide it into 40 lots and they're going to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the engineering, the roads, the stormwater runoff. If you're talking about dividing one lot into 2, sometimes that's easier. If you're doing more than that,
it may
it
be
all
easier, but you're
still
still got
takes
6
time.
months of your life tied up in your plan.
I was going to say at least 6 months. So, okay. And maybe we could even, oh gosh, there's so many questions. Outside of the few spots you have this year, what is your wait list? And what is the current climate timeline from sign the dotted line to you're moving into
We
your
don't
house?
pre-sign. If we sign up, we start building. Our pre-construction takes us, what our pre-construction package does is gets us to a point where we know we can just hit the ground running. So people who have land that's not quite ready, whether it be a building permit, construction loan, survey, engineering, we're thinking about the start date while we're doing all those pre-construction activities. I would say if you're interested and you have land, what we can't really do, we hear this a lot, like if I find land, that's not a conversation we're having right now because good luck. But if you have land and you want to be be building and you like our designs, please contact me, reference this meeting, and we have a lot of capacity. You know, for the first time in 8 years, we don't have anything going in Ulster County. We had, at this point, last time we had 21 homes going, but I have not picked up a single piece of land in 9 months, and we were selling 2 a month. We had a big project in Saugerties. So for the first time since 2012, we literally have nothing going on in Ulster County, and that was our biggest marketplace. So if you have land in Dutchess or Ulster County, Sullivan's my backyard, so that's not a problem. Let us know. We don't really have a wait list. We're able to build a lot of homes at the same time because we have teams in different counties. As long as I'm not overwhelming my staff in the office, which is small. We have a small design and finance team. As long as they're not being overwhelmed in a way that's diluting the process for the customer, we keep adding on. So the simplest answer is let us know what's up. And then, we are interested in this, not the easiest, but we're not looking for complicated cases. Like if you have a straightforward project that kind of fits in our sort of vision, then we can be very helpful.
I think so. I have two more like well, one of them is Kate has asked a couple times. I want to make sure we answer this.
Mhm.
If you could, it says, wonder if all houses are wood frame, can you design concrete material houses?
Yeah, some people can, we don't. We wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, that would be like if you get in one of those charts where if yes, go here, if no, go here. This would be a no. You'd have to go talk to somebody else. It's just not
Okay.
our play.
But
It's done all the time. Don't let me
and we're
discourage.
getting some specific questions about like, where do you find out about zoning? Like, do you have experience building on a mountain? Wondering the difficulty of dealing with bedrock blasting. I think that a lot of this stuff is really hyper specific. So it's like,
It's
you need to
helpful.
talk to the town, rezoning from commercial to residential. I would call the town and
I would actually call a good lawyer. The town is only as good as its zone. I mean, like say the town of Crompton has one guy working there. The town of Olive Bridge as a farmer, it's part-time. So depending on what you're getting, having a really good real estate attorney that you're not afraid to pay, like you're not trying to, get him to give you a bunch of stuff for free is a great asset. There's a lot of great real estate attorneys out there. You really like, I think the TV show, you don't want to be asking the town questions that you don't know the answer to. You kind of want to go in knowing the answer and playing dumb a little bit and see if you can lead them your way, not be like, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and you get shut down right away. You want to have an education in what you're trying to do prior. Thing about a mountaintop or bedrock is not a big deal. In fact, bedrock, you have a contractor that's fair. Whatever they're using, if you have to bring a big hammer in, you can use it as your road base. So yeah, you are spending a lot of money to kind of hammer out your foundation and your septic tank and your well line, all that crap. But if you got a 300 or 400 foot driveway, you can use that rock and haul it right for your driveway. So it may not be a even split, but it goes a long way. So there's all kinds of little tricks like that.
I think, and I just posted a link. So apologies, Chuck. This is land.nyc, which is it's actually from a different company called Huts. But what they've started doing is they're sort of semi-vetting land that's for sale. They're doing it, and you don't need to comment on this, but you can, there's land that's for sale that's theoretically at least further along in the process where they're looking at it to see where a house might be placed, what might be the cost of the driveway be. And so I think that might be, if you have not bought land yet, that might be a place to start where they have some knowledge of it. Some of it is, relatively cursory knowledge. But it is a place, stuff is just specific. I think that what Chuck said about knowing the people in the town, that is really useful. So this is where I think talking to a builder and saying, hey, like, this is what I want to do. What should I do? And then the builder would say, do not talk to Marty. You should first we're going to talk to an attorney, or let me just give them a call. Like usually they're kind of open to this, or we did this 2 years ago. This is why having, I think, someone with experience in that specific area can be incredibly priceless value. And last question, do you work in Westchester County? Assuming no, but that's not that far away.
I live in Pennsylvania and don't work in Pennsylvania.
Fair.
So the reason why we wouldn't work in Westchester wouldn't be the distance. It would just be the hyper regulation and
different. Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Takes all the fun out of it.
I was just thinking that. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And I think I posted this already, but Chuck has said that he will give anybody who like writes in and says, I found out about you on Upstate Curious, the generator.
Transfer switch, which nearly everybody upgrades to because it allows you to put a generator in later at no, it's sort of all ready, hookup ready.
And you're going to want a generator, just budget. You just like add that to the budget. That's not a question. I think if you're in a woody area, like just get the generator, you're going to love it. So, yeah, well, thank you so much for joining. This has been super interesting. It looks like a lot of people are thanking you also. I'm sure you can like look at the chat now. It's been flying all night. And, yeah, you can get in touch. Like I said, I'll send out an email probably tomorrow with the link for this and then Chuck's information. So, Chuck, you can just tell me how you want people to contact you. And then hopefully some of y'all can get some good houses built.
Perfect.
So let us know. All right. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else you want to say, Chuck, before we sign
No,
off?
thanks everybody for taking this hour. Been super fun.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye. Have a great night, everyone.
See you later.